So let's go to Van Jones now, former special advisor to President Obama, and Scott Jennings, former senior advisor to Senator Mitch McConnell. So Van, you look at that map, but then you see headlines like this: why Democrats remain nervous about Biden's chances. And like this time in 2016, Trump looks doomed to defeat. That's why Democrats are worried. A Biden campaign memo comes out from the manager of the campaign, quote, Donald Trump can still win this race. So Van, is this just hand-wringing and, trying to get turnout up, or is there legitimately something there that they're worried about?
Yeah, there is legitimately something there. And as you remember, quite famously, this time 4 years ago, I was screaming and waving my arms around. At that point, Democrats said, hey, be quiet, you're demoralizing people, and you look like an idiot for saying that Trump can still win. Nobody is saying that now, and here's the reasons. Number one, polls are only as good as the people you talk to and what they tell you. You got a whole big iceberg of white guys, conservative white guys, who actually didn't even vote in 2016. I've got sources telling me about a third to 25% to a third of the people going to these rallies didn't even vote for Trump in 2016. Some of them didn't vote at all. They're therefore not likely voters. They're probably not being talked to. As that iceberg thaws, what do you expect to see? Voter registration. And that's what you're seeing, a surge of Republican voter registration. There's a big iceberg of votes for him. They're not being polled. They're coming in. This thing is more likely to be very close. Do not believe the promise of the polls. Rely on the power of the people. Run all the way through the tape. This thing could go any direction.
All right. So, which is a really interesting point when you say, I know it's anecdotal, but your source is saying that that you got a quarter to a third of people going to Trump rallies who weren't even Trump voters last time. That's pretty powerful. Yet, Scott, what you also have on the other side here is, let's just take Senator John Cornyn up for re-election. So he's evaluating what he sees on the ground, and what he sees is giving him cause to distance himself from the president. His comment in a recent interview is that Trump is, quote, like a lot of women who get married and think they're going to change their spouse, and that doesn't usually work out very well. So these are senators who are on the ground up for re-election who clearly see being close to Trump as not a good thing. What does that tell you? Are they wrong?
Well, I don't totally agree with the fact that they don't see being close to Trump as a good thing. If they really thought that, they wouldn't be voting with Donald Trump 90+% of the time. Stylistically, John Cornyn is very much different than Donald Trump, and that's true for a lot of the senators that are on the ballot this year. And I don't see these comments as an effort to distance. I see them as honest answers to questions from reporters who are finally covering, these big Senate races. So I just think the idea that you would distance yourself from a president of your own party with 2 weeks to go in an election, nobody believes that John Cornyn is not running in the party of Donald Trump in Texas. But that doesn't mean John Cornyn can't express some disagreement stylistically with Donald Trump down the stretch. So I think it's easy to overread this. And I know it's happening in a couple of races, but especially in Texas, I think Trump and Cornyn are likely to win down there and have similar vote totals.
Okay, so Van, let me play something the president said on that campaign call. I was playing some of the Fauci part earlier. Let me play something about the election.
We're going to win. I wouldn't have said that 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I don't know. I wouldn't have said it. It was tougher for me.
Okay, so the reason I played that, Van, is he's talking about 2 or 3 weeks. Now, he needs to say that. But nonetheless, in the last month of 2016, you had a lot of late decided voters. And of those late decider voters, more of them went for Trump than Clinton. Big time, right? You saw that. Now, this is not an election where people are undecided. You're pointing out it could really be about new voters and new registration. But do you think that Trump is right? This 2 or 3 week window has perhaps changed things?
Listen, we still evaluate the Trump campaign based on 1996 criteria, like, well, how much money is he spending on television and stuff like that. They have a big operation online, and you may have noticed that you have friends and relatives who are starting to sound completely bizarre to you. They're talking about pedophilia and all kind of bizarre stuff. Why? Because they're being bombarded online with one of the most sophisticated influence operations that you've ever seen, and that is going to have an effect. And so they probably have some data that is showing that some of this stuff is starting to eat in. We don't know how strong these floorboards are under these numbers and how much the termites of disinformation online and frankly just persuasion online and motivation online is affecting us. You don't see the same ads that your cousin does on Facebook. You don't see the same posts that your cousin does on Instagram. That's a big deal in terms of we don't know what's going on, and he could have data that we don't have.
Scott, quick final word.
Yeah, I agree with Van. The Trump campaign does have sophisticated online organizing tools. They've also been utilizing traditional field organizing tools. They're actually going door to door. Van's point at the start of the segment was true. They've had huge success on voter registration. To overcome a polling deficit, you have to have some kind of field campaign that maybe the polling isn't picking up. That's what they're banking on. The question is it enough? And I guess we'll find out in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thank you both.